This is the Millennials in Multifamily podcast, brought to you by Kronos Investment Partners. We interview industry experts to unlock key information that will help young professionals break into the multifamily world in order to create long-term and short-term wealth. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to iTunes and leave a rating and written review so we can reach more listeners.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of the Millennials in Multifamily podcast. I'm on with my partners at Kronos Investment Partners, Fritz Ritter, Ryan McShea, and we're going to call this episode 0 of our podcast.
Episode 0.
Episode 0.
This one.
Let's get it going. But no, the purpose of this episode is just to give everyone an introduction to our podcast and really to tell everyone why 3 guys in their 20s without a ton of real estate experience. I mean, we've all had some real estate experience before we started this podcast, but not a lot. What on earth, like what business did we 3 have starting a podcast? And on the surface, we probably really didn't have any business trying to establish ourselves as thought leaders. But I think we have a pretty interesting story that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to. And we were like, we should document this because I think we'll be able to reach a lot of people and help a lot of people, especially younger people who are trying to kind of figure out what they want to do. And maybe they want to buy apartments or big commercial real estate, but they have lots of limiting beliefs, and then they end up, choosing another path. We've been through all of that, and hopefully through documenting this journey, we'll be able to reach someone and provide some sort of value. So, like I said, it's me, Fritz, and Ryan. We're the partners at Kronos. We have different backgrounds. Before we came to Kronos, we were all doing separate things. So Fritz and I, we actually met at a real estate meetup about 3 years ago now, geared toward like single family homes, wholesaling, that type of stuff. Shortly after that, he bought a 4-plex here in Maryland, and then I bought a duplex here in Maryland. And we had been talking for a while. And we're like, all right, let's do a deal together. We have similar values, and we're both looking to try out the BRRRR method. So let's go do a rehab and get the rehab experience down, because that's probably going to be the most challenging part of executing any BRRRR deal.
Well, John, remember, we tried wholesaling for a little bit too and realized that is a really hard job. So we decided the next best step was to go really hard and go for a flip.
I heard that like when you're calling people on the phone all day, like people hate getting those calls.
At least
I've gotten a couple.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple too, and I definitely hate them. And I've made a bunch of them, and I've gotten cursed at before.
Yeah, I answered one. I'm like, dude, I sold that property like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I've gotten that on mine too.
I remember it was like as soon as I closed on my 4-plex, FHA loan, like probably as high on the LTV as you can get, 97%. And they're just like, hey, we'll buy it from you. I'm just like, how? I'm not even going to get like any money back. Like you're literally just going to pay back the closing costs. It was like, and it was insane. I was like, did you guys even do your homework?
But
No,
you're right. We did try wholesaling for a little while. And I remember I would rush home from work. We're looking locally, and we're trying to make phone calls before like 6 o'clock when everyone starts eating dinner. And then from like 7 to 9, we didn't want to make calls after 9 because I think it's against the law. And I would like rush home from work, speeding on the highway. I'm like, I got to get home before 5 o'clock so I can do an hour of cold calling to hit up owners. And I would do that. We'd have a list of properties that we skip trace. We'd get a few numbers, and I'd call. Like 90% of the numbers were disconnected. And then probably 90% of the people I got on the phone would like yell at me, or they're just like, no, not interested, or
You would be the best VA.
yeah. Well, I'm so.
But I think honestly, I think we all have this advantage that we don't really think about that often. Is we are from the Baltimore area, like young guys in their 20s, like are out of college or even starting college, who are in San Diego. They will never think that they can go out and buy a home or buy homes or buy apartments for that matter. Because, we're near Baltimore. I didn't grow up in Baltimore, but I knew that when someone told me I could buy a whole block for like a couple $1,000,
Right, literally.
it's not normal. But it gets the wheels churning in your head. You're like, wait a minute, like I could buy a lot of property here. What else can I do?
You can buy the whole set of The Wire, man.
Yeah, you can buy the whole fire if you wanted to.
The thing, then you go down and drive by the block, and you're like, oh, this is why it's only a couple $1,000s for like 10 homes.
But people
Omar's
that are
there.
young are like, we have guys, someone like Cecil, he spent a couple $1,000 on an entire house.
Right. Yeah.
With me. And I remember being like, wow, this costs like a couple $1,000. It's crazy. You got someone living here.
Our friend Cecil, that was the first meetup I ever went to, and he was telling us about that house. I think he bought it for like 10 grand. He's like, yeah. we're gonna rent it for $900 a month. I was like, what?
I was there. Yeah, the neighbor, his like sister or something wanted to rent it from him. And
right.
He like told him like right there.
Yeah, and if you've ever been on Bigger Pockets, they have like the 1% rule, the 2% rule. I was like, dude, you're at the 10% rule. Like you could buy that thing cash and you'll make back the entire price of the house in 1 year from rent.
Dude, Cecil's a good man. He's a cool guy. I've actually learned a good bit from him, but I remember, walking through this house the first time, I looked up at the ceiling and there was just a hole in the ceiling. And it was raining that day.
That was a West Baltimore row home.
Oh yeah. Deep in West Baltimore.
Yeah. If you're listening and you're not familiar with West Baltimore, just do a quick Google Earth and search Sandtown, Winchester.
Dude, seeing that house that he got there like inspired me. I didn't even own that condo yet.
The same thing happened for me too. When I heard he bought that house, I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like there's deals out there where, if you do this right, you can make money. And I think he did.
Shout out to Cecil.
I think he did pretty well on that deal too, but I think it also gave him a lot of headaches. But it's like a great learning experience, and he learned while he earned. Me and
someone
Fritz,
else I want to give tribute to is honestly, like I think Brenton Hess was like inspiring to me, at least as a young person buying rentals. Shout out to Brenton.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I realized that working sucks, and I would always see Brenton doing all this stuff, and I was just like, yeah, that sounds way better than at the time I was an electrician, lifting all this heavy shit all day and like working out and all the elements and stuff. I was like, this kind of sucks. I mean, I'm getting paid nice, but I don't want to do this forever. And that's when I started going to the club where I met John, and I was just like, yeah, this makes way more sense. And then they brought Mark Owens in, and I heard about his lifestyle where he's like, yeah, I try to work 4 hours a week. I'm just like, huh? You only work 4 hours a week? Like, okay, I'm missing something here. It's not work, for 40 years and then have fun. It's grind really hard for 10 and then relax the rest of your life.
Dude, so Brenton was like the first young person I knew who was killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that, I mean, he bought, I think...
There's a 13-unit portfolio.
Yeah, well, he bought like...
did it for me. I was like, wow. And like, a young person can buy portfolios of real estate now. With
other people's money. Right. I think he bought, like, him and a couple partners, they bought around 50 units with none of their own money. And he does like a dozen flips a year too. And he's just like, you can tell he's so passionate about what he does. I'm like, I don't have that feeling at all at work. Like I want to be like Brenton.
Yeah, we don't want to be the thought leaders. We just want to be the buyers.
But that led me and Fritz to doing this flip in Baltimore.
Isn't it crazy how like we both had similar inspirations from the same people, really, and we didn't even know each other at the time.
Yeah.
We came from the same
Same
the same
farm.
community, really. It's like the same tribe.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mark Owens is another person that very like inspirational for me, just like
Oh, and the Marshalls too.
yeah. But they're just the ones who like got the wheels churning, and then I think like all the three of us we're doing a different strategy right now, but if it weren't for guys like them, we never would have gotten to this point.
I don't know if I'd be in real estate.
I don't know if I would either. So I think huge tribute and like just appreciation to all of those guys out of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Fritz, that led you and me to doing our first flip and our last flip.
What did I used to call it? The Fritz or flop?
Fritz or flop, man. I remember you took a picture of that house the day we bought it, and boy, I remember how excited we were to close on that. If only we had known how bad of a flop that would be.
Should have
But-
went.
What was the reason? I mean, did you just not budget enough?
Everything.
We'll get into
dude.
that.
Yeah, everything. We did literally everything wrong. I mean, we partnered with someone else up from the club that we thought we had a pretty good relationship with, and like Fritz is an electrician. I'm a numbers guy, but so obviously I don't know like the first thing about swinging a hammer. Fritz is probably a little more knowledgeable than me, but not where you need to be for this house. I mean, this was a full gut house. We had to do every mechanical system, like dig down the basement, completely reframe it, new roof, everything.
That's a lot to learn. That's not really a cosmetic flip.
No.
Oh no.
No, and that
We
and
went
the
all
house,
in.
yeah, and the house next door to us was also vacant. The only reason we bought it was because before we bought our house, it was like on this block there were 3 vacant homes. One of the homes before we bought ours was just rehabbed. We used that as our comp. We didn't look at the days on market, which was really stupid. It was on market for 6 months. We were just like, oh, that's our comp. That's the price we can get. And
Probably
then
did a Zillow comp.
no, it was a real comp. Like it had actually just been rehabbed, like right before we bought ours. So we're like, that's the comp, not looking at days on market. So then we go and we buy ours, and we're like, all right, well, if that house sold with 2 turds next door, there's only going to be 1 turd when we sell ours. So we can definitely use that comp. We walked the property. Well, I don't think you actually did, Fritz, until it was under contract. I walked it with this other partner, not knowing the first thing about rehab. I trusted his judgment, and his bid was like, yeah, we can do this for $55,000. Which now I'm just like, I would have budgeted like 90. And this guy, I mean, he did all of his projects. I'd seen 2 of them, very good work. They were heavy lifts, and he was the GC on all of them. So I was like, all right, he knows what he's doing. He has some credibility. And I remember we were like getting quotes from contractors right before we closed, and then we closed without like the full scope of work, which was really stupid. And you were started walking with other contractors at that point, and they were all coming in at like $85,000 of rehab. And we go back to this person, and he's just like, yeah, I expected that. That's what you're going to get from GCs. We're going to have to sub it all out. And I was like, okay, like that's cool, because that's what you've done on your prior rehabs. Like, and I know on his one house, it was like also a full gut, similar size. He did it within like a similar budget. So we're like, it can be done, but you're going to have to do literally everything. And I had spoken with this person in depth before. I was like, we do not know how to rehab houses. Like, this is going to be a learning experience for us. So I thought it was like pretty clear. Okay, if we're not going to use GC, you're going to be project manager. And that just didn't work out. I think he got into a much larger deal, and that just took up a lot more of his time, which is honestly, looking back, like understandable.
How much money did you lose?
Oh, dude, between the 2 of us,
Tell us, what was the hole in your pocket?
I think
Still there. No.
yeah, no, it's like
It's like
still
35.
paid this off?
No. We paid it off. That's fine. I think in total we lost like 80 grand.
Yeah, that's like 35.
Were you? Oh shit!
Yeah. It was like
Yeah,
80.
were you guys in school at the time? Were you working? Like,
We were both working. I was house hacking. So were you, which was like instrumental.
I was in college when I got my first deal. I had raised the money to do it, and I did all the work.
Well, we got killed on this little house that we ended up selling for $195,000. We held it for 21 months, and we lost 80 grand on it, which is just like because of the holding costs.
Wait, you said 80?
Well,
80
yeah.
between
Combined.
the both of us. Yeah.
I thought you guys lost like 10 grand each.
No. This thing was.
That's the worst. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah. No, and I give us credit. I think we're pretty strong-minded. I think a lot of people would have quit. And to be honest, I still do harbor some resentment for this person because I understand, like, yeah, he's probably really busy, but I was very clear with him from the beginning. We don't know what we're doing with rehab. We had developed a relationship and a friendship with this person over the course of a year. And we were hoping he would look out for our best interests.
Did he lose?
What?
Nah. So
that was another mistake we made. We didn't sign any contracts with him.
The way we wrapped him in was we put up all the money, and he just got to get the profit for his knowledge.
Right, and he got both commissions.
Well, so I mean, like, kind of like the trajectory that we're going on, right? It's like, we tried wholesaling, don't like that. Flipping, definitely don't like that. Took a lot of money, a lot of time. But one thing that really was like the light bulb with me and John's experience, was our multifamily. You know, with the fourplex, I'm in on with another partner, Josh, and you know, at first, a whole bunch of things started going on. It was a 100-year-old building. Like looking back on it, I don't know. You know, I don't know if we go into it. We didn't really have that, like, value add.
Your fourplex was 100 years old.
Well, it still is.
Yeah.
It didn't get younger. Yeah, dude. This is on historic Laurel. So this thing's super old. Mechanicals, you know, can go. So I mean, like I said, I don't know if I'd buy it again.
Water well?
What's that?
Does it have a water well outside?
No, I think like all the water's kind of updated. So I mean, like the guy who was running it, the guy owned it was in Texas. Guy who was running it was fresh out of prison. Taught himself electrical work in there, and then would just hire hobos to do work for him. So everything was like shit, right? And so we go in, and of course we run into all of his handyman work. And you know, so we ran into a bunch of problems at first because we didn't do the due diligence. We didn't raise any money for rehab. We just knew we could take the rents from $1,000 to $1,200 and $1,200 to $1,400, and that was our plan. And you know, it didn't quite work like that for the first year. Once I finally moved out and we started renting out my unit, we got this lady in there, one of those, hey, gotta move this weekend. Is that fine? Yeah, sure. You can do it this weekend. Sooner the better.
You just want the rent.
Right. Yeah. I'm just like, let's do it. Right. And
this sounds good to me.
You got this flip going on too that's draining you. You're just like, I need income right now.
So I'm like, let's do this. So we shoved this lady in there with her husband. They're like older. So I'm just like, these are, just older people looking for a place to stay. They're good people, right? What the hell?
Oh, you sucker.
Yep. So they moved in right away. They're going to get me rent next Friday. And then all of a sudden next Friday turned into a month. And then their bank account got frozen. And then oddly enough, she paid me like money like 3 months in after not paying. She paid me about $2,000, which I thought was really weird because if you're just going to like screw somebody over, why pay them anything? But she was in there for 6 months. And I only got $2,000 out of her, and I should have received about $7,000. So the eviction took another 2 months. And so, I mean, like, what I noticed, though, was even though Flip was failing, a lot of money going out a month because of the mistakes we were making, multifamily, I made every beginner mistake. I mean, you heard these two laugh when I said, got to move in this Friday, right? And I'm just like, sure, that's even better for me, right? And not supposed to do that. You're supposed to like background
Screen
check,
'em.
screen, do all this stuff, verify income. There's a lot of processes you're supposed to do. We didn't do that, and it burned us for 6 months. But what I noticed was, even though we got screwed over and we had all these issues with the fourplex as far as like fixing, bad handyman work and that tenant, the other 3 tenants paid it. So, I mean, really, the flip, we would make a problem, and it would cost us physical money every month. Like, it'd be like, well, shit, like we missed this or we missed that. And it's like, well, now we got to pay the plumber again. Or, this guy came over here and we gave him a third up front, and he's out of town now. I'm like, okay, now we got to put up another third. Where the fourplex, it was just like potential money, right? Like that rent was going to be potential money in our pocket, CapEx, whatever. But the other 3 tenants paid down the mortgage, the utilities, everything else pretty much. They covered it. The 3 tenants did. And after this flip, and we finally skated through on the skin of our teeth, and we cried at our bank accounts, we noticed that multifamily had a better hedge against, risk, really, right? Because you could have one bad tenant, you could have a lot of shit go wrong, you can make those beginner mistakes, and you can still survive without throwing $2,000 a month away.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with my duplex, where I had, headache tenants. The day I moved in, I inherited a tenant upstairs. I had to evict her. My very first tenant, I had to evict her, and she lived right above me, and I slept right by the window too. So I was just like, this lady could literally like take a brick and throw it through my window one night, and I could die.
That's Baltimore, though. You guys, it sounds like you guys had pretty like sketchy beginnings starting out and had a lot of things go wrong. Where mine, I raised the money while I was in school. It was a property right by my house where I was living. It was 20 minutes away. And the girl that owned the property that I bought it for paid like $220,000 for it. And I bought it. She paid for that like a year before I bought it. And then I bought it for $115,000.
You burn it down?
And it was a condo. And I remember seeing her at the closing table, and she was pissed. She really overpaid for this thing. But she had a Section 8 tenant in the property, and the tenant was paying like $1,550 a month, and 90% of it was coming from the government. So I just held it as a rental. This place was a dump on the inside, but the girl didn't want me to do anything to it really. And it just cash flowed like over $600 a month. And to me, that was a home run. And I just collected this, this income from it. And we had some problems, the tenant and I, but I was also learning how to be a landlord, right? How to communicate with the tenant and doing all that. And eventually she moved out, and I fixed the place, and I sold it and made a bunch of money on the back end. But while I was doing this in college, I was interning for a private equity firm, and these guys wanted me to cold call office building and industrial building owners all day long. But these weren't just, this wasn't multifamily, but these guys were out there trying to raise $100 million, and they wanted to buy government leased office buildings and industrial buildings across the country. And at first, all of this sounded like it was very confusing to me. I didn't really understand private equity or a fund or raising money or, I knew I was in the real estate business, and it just worked out for me to get into that position. But, to me, it opened my eyes to how big the industry is and what you can do in it. And I was reading all the multifamily books at the time, and it was like, the ideas just combined, and I was like, this is what I want. I want to raise money and buy apartments. This was meant to happen to me, so something would click. And and I had the experience as a landlord, and I knew from that, as soon as I started doing that, like that was what I was going to devote my entire life to. And I was young, like I was in my early 20s, but it was like, this is my mission. This is what I'm called to do. This makes sense, and I'm going to make it happen.
Are you struggling to understand how to underwrite multifamily properties? Hi, I'm John Stoeber, and I completely understand your problem. I thought underwriting would come naturally to me due to my background in finance and accounting, but I quickly found out that there aren't a lot of resources that cover this subject. I had no idea whether what I was doing was right, wrong, or just original. I don't want you to have to pick up little nuggets here and there like I did. So I wrote an ebook called How to Analyze Big Apartment Buildings and Make Them Feel Small that puts together all the pieces of the puzzle. We're also giving away a deal analyzer with the ebook, and they're both completely free. Don't wait as long as I did to start chasing financial freedom. Go to bit.ly/underwriting ebook and get your free copy today.
Yeah, I wish I could have had that story at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I had my problems, like when I was rehabbing the place, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I mean, I had this contractor, he's a great guy, he's in West Virginia, but I had to trust what he was saying to me, and I felt like I was always getting screwed over. And, during the rehab, I was like, just do it, just do this, do that. And I was bidding things out, but trying to make ends meet, and it all worked out. But that was scary. And there was a lot of risk there too, because you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars that you earned, and you want to hold it, but you have to just throw it out the window to make it work.
You're hoping it'll come back to you.
Yes. It was a gamble to me at that point.
And you're telling me, man, we had to pay, I think, what, $1,500? No, maybe not that much, but it might have been like $600 for that 15-foot long fence because we tried to hide the turd next door. We actually built a fence that just, yeah. I mean, we were just like, do we really need this? And we're just like, yeah. We got to hide this thing as much as we can.
Yeah. But
yeah.
So very, very different backgrounds and beginnings, but it all led us to multifamily, and it led us to meeting each other. I mean, Fritz and I met at the RIA meetup, that Brenton Hess's RIA meetup. And then Ryan, you and I connected over Facebook.
Yeah, you were trying to raise money for an apartment project. I was like, this guy knows what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we got on a phone call, and then we kind of just like went from there, and Kronos was born out of that.
Out of the ashes.
Out of our ashes. You made some gold.
Well, I kind of wanted to touch on that. So now that we kind of went through our backgrounds and very different backgrounds, but I want to go into, now we've created Kronos, what were some of the struggles that we had getting into this game called apartments? And I kind of want to play on kind of me and John's theme, which is, hey, tried this out, didn't work. Hey, tried this out, didn't work. How do you keep pushing after, failed at wholesaling, Flip took a giant dump, how did you keep pushing, John?
Well, dude, I know how we did it, because I remember you and I would talk for like hours some nights, and it was always like, we're going to do some flips, we're going to do some wholesales to get the capital, and we're going to go buy apartments with it. Like, that was always the end game, was to go buy apartments and big commercial real estate. And we had this limiting belief that we had to make a bunch of money ourselves to go buy these big properties. And then I think just like through listening to some podcasts and seeing other young people like David Toupin, Dylan Marma, Chris Salerno, Kyle Maricotti, they're like all young guys in their 20s. They're out buying these like multi-million-dollar apartments.
Tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, and like hundreds of units at a time. And just seeing them do that was like, well, they definitely don't have millions of dollars, or at least they didn't at the beginning. But they're figuring out a way where it can be done. We can do the same. And because that was always the end game, was to go buy apartments, it was like, this isn't wholesaling where we'll just figure something else out. We're going to stick with buying apartments. And Fritz, I remember you and I started learning like about this business it's August 2020 right now. I remember it was July 2018. That's where we were like screw flipping. We were still doing our flip. We're going to go buy apartments. And we just learned, grinded, and networked for 2 years. Ryan, I think you came along like a couple months later, and we just kind of like continued that path. We had no idea what we were doing. It sounds really sexy to buy apartments and go raise a bunch of money, but then when you go out and you try to do it without any track record, it's hard to raise money.
In our first meetings, we're like, all right, what do we do now?
Yeah.
We all had the same goal. We didn't own anything at the time.
Fritz had his fourplex.
It was like,
Yeah, because he still
It's like-
has that.
he's like, hey, we want to buy apartments. All right, now what? Well,
Yeah. And we were talking about systems, like programs that we could help organize our information. And it was literally like forming a company from
But we had no money lined up. We didn't really know how to underwrite deals and identify them at the time. We had no deal flow. And we started to realize we're like, not only is this market just like probably more competitive than it ever has been, but we're competing against guys that have been doing this for like 30 years. Because there's a lot of people will go from like either having their own business or being an executive or something, or they were really successful in smaller real estate and they transitioned to this big commercial stuff. So they all have, a lot of them have money and experience in some form or another in business. And here's us, just like a bunch of 20-year-olds with very little experience and no competitive advantage.
Well, we picked a couple markets that we wanted to shop in, and I feel like we were pretty innovative for people who have no idea what they're doing. Like, we didn't even have a list of properties that we were going to go after. We as a team figured out, we can pull every single multifamily property in a geographic region from CoStar with the ownership information.
Right.
Boom. We had thousands of properties in our markets that we could just immediately start calling on. And we were just coming up with weird, like, no one told us to do that.
well,
No. It
that's
was like,
our, that was what really helped us, right? Because we didn't have the millions and millions of dollars. So what we had to do was develop our skills.
Yeah.
We
Right.
had to think out of the box like that. We had to, hire that VA to cold call them. We had to learn how to underwrite markets so we could actually sell it to people. It's just continuous learning is really what is the only thing you can do when you don't have millions of dollars to start out higher.
and it was like, it felt like we were taking the smallest baby steps. Some days it was like, we're not making
It was
any
discouraging.
progress. Oh, totally. I was like, I'm never going to get out of my job. And like at my house, my dad's an MBA. My brother got his master's. I could have gotten a CPA. My dad was always, for like the first 2 years out of college, he's like, you can go back to school, get your MBA. You're going to go get your CPA. And I knew if I did that, it'd be guaranteed where I'd make like $200,000-$300,000 a year at some point in my career. And I was just like planting these seeds of doubt in my head where I'm just like, should I have done that? Like, if I had just gotten my CPA straight out of school, I would have had it already and I'd be making a much larger salary. Like, what was I thinking? Meanwhile, we're just moving so slowly along in real estate.
It's funny you say that, man, because I was admitted to a military college at one point, like halfway through my college career. And I was going to drop everything and go to this college thing, but I was to this military school. But I was kind of introduced to that internship with that private equity firm. And I was like very, very close to sticking out to that military college. And I decided not to because I wanted to pursue the real estate.
I had actually started studying for my CPA too. I had a friend who took it and he gave me his course material before it was going to expire. I did that for like a month and then I hated it like so much. And then I was just like, I'm not spending a year doing this because I would have to give up on real estate for a year. And I just can't bring myself to do it.
I
It
think
wasn't
that's
hard. It was a hard thing to decide that, probably.
Yeah.
You were an accounting major and finance.
Yeah.
So you were destined to go that direction.
I was. and I was really good at accounting in college. Like I would have passed the CPA the first time. I know I would have, but didn't do it. And actually, like, hearing David Toupin's story was really inspiring, because he had jobs for investment banking out of college, which is like, he would have been like 22 years old, making probably well over six figures. And I think he made like no money his first year out of school, because he was trying to make multifamily work for him. He was trying to buy apartments, and then he finally got his first deal with his partner, Glenn, and things just sort of started to take off for him. I was like, that could be us. You know, we're moving along really, really slowly, but it just takes one, and then it's going to be like a parabolic movement. We just got to find a way to get to one. And that's what we did. We just kind of like grinded it out for like 2 years, basically, feeling like we were going nowhere.
Well, we all had little properties, and now we have a substantial sized commercial multifamily deal that we can get into here. But you can kind of see it happening now, where people are saying, hey, I have money, I want to invest with you, or their brokers are passing us deals, other people want to partner with you, and it is turning into kind of a snowball effect. Our deal flow and our momentum is way higher now.
Oh my God, yeah. And it's because we spent those 2 years developing skills and like saving money, where we were able to buy these 2 small apartments in Little Rock.
And that's kind of the point of the show too, is to talk. I mean, you know, there's a lot of interviews with very skilled people, you know, in this podcast, but to reach out to young guys and girls who want to get into multifamily investing, that they can do it. It's not a pipe dream, right?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, like that's kind of what it does. Is it kind of cuts through that complication persona that multifamily has, because you talk to these guys who are 21 years old, you might be like, oh, you know, he's sharpening the pencils for the real guy, right? You know, or he's over here running the meetup or doing some email campaign. It's like, no, he learned how to do this, and now he's raising millions of dollars for the main guy, and he's 21. How do you trust a 21-year-old with $100K to go do a deal for you? And it's because he developed those skills. And what we do in this show is we develop how young professionals are learning one specific skill, and it's adding value to these guys who are already doing stuff, and they're just like, I don't feel like underwriting anymore. You know, I don't feel like managing my social media, which we need. You know, I don't feel like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or they get better, right?
Right. And it's also like young people are better at a lot of this stuff than their older counterparts. We also have older people come on the show, and you'll hear it from them. They're just like, yeah, I'm not nearly as good at social media as the younger guys. So, you know, I've got the business and it's up and running, but if I can have like some 22-year-old come do my social media, my email campaigns, I'm going to grow. And it's like, it's a total win-win situation for both of them. The older person gets to grow their business, and the younger person gets to get in on their first few deals and just earn while they learn.
And I think one of the key things with that is work for free. You know, it's like tuition, right? You know, you could be getting paid a salary at some, you know, job that you don't like and not learning anything that goes on at the top level. But these guys are doing this stuff and just providing value. Like, I don't want any money. You just teach me how to do this.
Mm-hmm. And then it's interesting. So this actually happened to us, where, you know, we got these 34 units in Little Rock in a joint venture with another. You know, it's like, it's not a Kronos property, but we were able to add value to another group and partner with them. Ryan, you
put a significant amount of our own money into the deal.
Yeah. That's a big part of it too.
we put up a lot of money for this property. So.
And it's a joint venture deal, so it's not like we raised a ton of money from passive investors. I think most entrepreneurs, when they're starting out, like, they have to stick their neck out. And we had to do that for this. But
Proof of
it's
concept.
What?
It's the proof of concept.
Right.
And I remember in the beginning, you know, especially, you know, your underwriting and our metrics and what we wanted, it was off the path. This deal wasn't kind of where we were looking. You know, it just came up, and it was the right price. And we said we're going to stop just trying to plan to find the perfect deal. We need to get into a deal, and we're going to make it work.
Right.
But we had enough information to make an educated decision, and then we just leaped. But we completely pivoted to get started.
Yeah, we were looking in like the sexy growth markets for like newer product, and then this came along. It just like you were the one who led the charge on that, Ryan. And I was like not even initially in the deal at first, but then it was like it felt right, and it's a good opportunity. Mm-hmm. When's the next time an opportunity like this is going to come along? I'm not sure. It's been 2 years to get this, and this is the best opportunity that's come across our desk.
Well, you called me, and because we were underwriting a 100 unit down the road, and you're like, we don't have a chance on that 100 unit unless we lock up this property.
Yeah.
And that's so true, because this deal is going to get us into bigger deals, and you have to get your foot in the door.
And you hear it said all the time too, where it's like you get the first one, it's the hardest, and then the next few will come across really quickly. And I personally, I didn't know if that was going to be true, just because of how competitive, but holy Lord, like once it did happen, it was ridiculous how many people start coming to you and they're interested in investing now just because you closed on the property, and they know that. It's not like we've gone full cycle with this, but I know, Ryan,
they're seeing the pictures of the renovations now.
Yeah. But I know with you, like, you've been taking the money raising effort like by the horns, and it's just been crazy, like what's been happening since that's happened. I mean, we now have like legitimate passive investors where, and before we had a 100 unit, $5 million property. It's just like, oh, where's the money going to come from? And now it's like, no, we could definitely raise a couple $1 million if the deal is good.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It's true. Yeah, I do feel that we could go raise, a couple $1 million and take down a bigger deal.
Yeah. And it's all been, I mean, these investors have just like come out of the woodwork.
Not to mention this deal that we have now is going to cash flow an insane amount of money. Like not even your typical real estate investment. Like this is going to be, it's going to be a cash cow.
I believe so too. It's definitely hairy, but
it was ugly.
Yeah,
you got to start there sometimes.
You might make, and this one proved that it's going to probably be a cash cow.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to break into this last little part here as we begin to wrap this up, and just kind of touch on like a little bit of what our purpose of the show is and what value we tend to give to our audiences and whoever decides to subscribe and listen to this.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something, Fritz.
Well, no, it wasn't. I was passing the torch.
Oh.
You guys do most of the interviews. I'm in a couple of the podcast episodes, but we're interviewing guys who are syndication attorneys for generations. Young people that own tens of millions, if not maybe 100 million plus worth of hundreds of millions worth of apartments, and they're young. And guys, men and women of all ages that are crushing it right now. And I think young people are going to see that it's possible, and they're going to say, we are going to be the people that give them the motivation to go out and get started. And one day they're going to call us or have us on their podcast and say, I started because of you.
I hope that we get calls like that.
Yeah,
that would like let us know, like,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that was the purpose of all of this.
I want to really I want this show to be able to be like, hey, look, if you're interested in apartments, don't go wholesale, don't go flip. And it really comes down to like, don't do something you don't want to do. Like even down to our jobs. Like if you don't want to work at your job, figure out a way to get out of it. Go do what you're passionate about. And it's like, I don't like flipping because it sucked. I don't like wholesaling because that sucked. I don't want to do single family rentals. I want to do apartments. And, this just goes to show that you can do it, and it doesn't matter your age. There's a 21-year-old right now raising, $3 million for a deal.
Mhm.
It does not matter about age.
There's a lot of, as you'll listen to some of our listeners, there's actually a ton of advantages to being young that older people don't have. And it's not just that we tend to be better with technology and social media. I mean, we have time, energy. We can take a lot more risk because we don't have families. I mean, I know with me, like, I could go broke right now and it would suck, but I don't have 2 kids and a wife to feed. It's all good. If I go broke, I'll just pick it up and start it over again. And also, what I think a lot of people are going to get out of the show is it's not just about, getting your mindset right, which is, I've realized through the show, it's like probably the most important thing is just believing that you can do it. But people are going to tell you, this is like the skill I developed, or this is what I did where I was 22 years old and I was able to form a partnership with someone who is like 55 and has been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah, you really discover a lot of stuff about, like, these people are just like, I found more about myself so I could develop the skills, and then I found somebody who needed that skill. And it
Mhm.
really comes down to just bringing value to the marketplace, right? And just finding someone who needs it. Like, one of our guests, the guy didn't know about, his older partner didn't know about syndications, and he told him about that. And now they're doing all these big deals. Brock, right?
Yeah.
His older partner didn't know anything about syndications. They were doing all their own money. And he's like, wait, I can raise money and not have to put a whole bunch of money down on this at risk. So, I mean, it's just little things. I mean, I think Dave Toupin, he sent like a book cover over to Glenn or something that started that relationship. I mean, it's little things that just got them in contact with these big players. And now they work with them. Now it's like, Dave works with Glenn. Brock works with that guy. I mean, it's just little things.
It snowballs. It's exponential growth.
If when I was in my early 20s, or I was listening to YouTube videos, people doing interviews and reading the books. I never once, I found flipping shows, podcasts, the rehabbing, all those things. I never found one about young guys buying apartments. Never. So
that's your lucky day.
Yeah,
right.
And I hope that we can provide a value for young guys and women who are looking to purchase and get into bigger deals.
Yep. Well, that's the purpose. And I think that's pretty much the purpose of this episode 02 is just to introduce you to what this show is going to be about and what you can expect from it. I hope you all decide to give the episodes a listen. I know they've been instrumental in our ability to buy our first deal and really add value in the asset management. We've learned such an incredible amount from our guests, and I think you will be able to as well.
Yeah, a lot of these episodes go really granular, and there's just things. I mean, I've listened to a lot of podcasts that these guests just go over that. I mean, we're in a peculiar situation too with COVID. So you hear a lot of stuff that you haven't heard. It's just like, okay, what do you do when you can't evict somebody? How does that work on the asset management? And it's just really interesting to see these guys who are 30 years plus who are just like, oh, well, I have an emergency plan. So this is what we're going to do. Like we already thought this out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I would have not even thought of that,
That's a good point. Just good tidbits of information. And also shout out and special thanks to all of the guests that have been on the show.
Yes.
That we're going to release, incredible people, very talented and smart people that from all over the country.
And just grateful of their time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for episode 0. Tune in for more to come, and let's get this thing rolling.
Also, If you want to contact us at any point, you want to do a deal, you want to get started, you want to learn something, you want to just talk to us, go to any one of our Facebooks, Fritz Ritter, John Stoeber, or mine, Ryan McShea. Hit us up anytime. If you want to check out what we're doing, go to kronosinvestmentpartners.com. Look at a little bit of how we structure our raises. You can find that information out on there and read our bios as well. So definitely check us out.
Thank you for listening to the Millennials in Multifamily podcast, brought to you by Kronos Investment Partners. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a rating and a written review at iTunes so that we can connect with more people. Finally, head on over to kronosinvestmentpartners.com and sign up for our newsletter so you can stay updated on everything we're doing. If you're interested in partnering with us as we find new opportunities, you can also schedule a phone call with us under the Contact Us tab at kronosinvestmentpartners.com.